Hello, I'm back with another video. And here's a topic that I've been trying to stay away from, but I finally saw something that caused me to go like this. And as the title says, it's something that happened earlier this week. People have been talking about it, and it only kind of made me say, well, I finally got to say something about it. I've had a few videos earlier where I kind of hinted at it, but now I'm gonna address the issue itself, and that is when people take actually something that needs to be talked about and co-opt it or hijack the topic to serve their own agenda. And I'm going to use a very current example in order to illustrate that point. And we'll break down where I actually can agree with some of their points, but how I think that because they're trying to promote their own agenda, it keeps the main thing that's actually going on in the industry from happening. So I'll get into that after the cut. So the catalyst for this video is that I saw people passing around these things where Anita Sarkeesian was getting mad at Persona 4 because Dancing All Night, because apparently it has women scantily clad high school age girls. And what do I think about that? Like, at first I was kind of like, it's Anita Sarkeesian. Who cares what she has to say? And then I thought to myself, well, I mean, you know, what does this all mean? So I came to the conclusion that the general essence of the argument that Anita Sarkeesian calls herself championing is actually a good one. There does need to be more women in gaming. There does need to be, and what I mean is not just women gamers, although, I mean, you know, that is also important. But more female protagonists. We need to take it further. And not because I have an agenda. I'm a black male, okay? I'm a minority. Why is it that I can very rarely, if ever, see a black male as the protagonist in a game? Why can I very rarely see a handicapped person as the protagonist in a story? Or a female space marine? Why is the vast majority of first-person shooter main characters some white guy? I mean, I have nothing against that, but I mean, and I know what some people are going to say, well, the vast majority of people in the gaming industry are of Caucasian descent. I can understand that, but I mean, like, it wasn't always this way, if you get what I'm saying. Like, in the 90s, in the early 90s, we had the mascot wars, where everyone wanted to create their own mascot, okay? Sega had a hedgehog, Capcom had Mega Man, Konami had several mascots, but for a while they tried to really push Sparkster, which was a possum. And, you know, Titus had a fox. You know, the company that made Earthworm Jim had an earthworm in a power suit. I mean, everyone had their own mascot, and they were all different. I mean, Sega tried to do a run with Vector Man, which was a dude who shot energy out of his hands made out of balls. I mean, everyone had their own unique flavor, and it was great. It was different. I mean, we had different protagonists and antagonists. I mean, hell, Donkey Kong, the trilogy, evolved from your main character being this huge male gorilla and his little buddy to being two smaller monkeys, to the second game really revolving around Dixie Kong, who was a female character. She went from being a sidekick in the second game to being like the main character in the third one. Phantasy Star, which was directed, I believe, or produced by a female Sega staffer. Almost all those games have strong female characters. No, all of them do have strong female characters, and I think 3 of them have the main character is a female. And now we're in an industry where we very rarely, if ever, see a female protagonist. And if we do, it's like, well, you know, like, very rarely is she portrayed in a realistic and or not pandering manner. We do see female characters, oh, she's scantily clad, woo, dead or alive, anybody? Or, you know, I'm not going to go into damsels in distress because, to be frank, a lot of those arguments are bullshit. Yes, Princess Peach does get kidnapped a lot, but it's not like she doesn't give up, she doesn't have a plan, or doesn't, she's not an inactive participant. She's actually trying to, you know, stop, or, you know, the world's trying to end. Okay, you go take care of this, I'll hold this stuff down. So that's not a fair argument, you know. We do need more different examples of protagonists. We need more different examples of antagonists. I mean, how many times can we have the femme fatale antagonist? Oh, she's really hot and she wears black. She might be a bad guy. Ooh. Can we please move beyond this? It's kind of... Basically, all this stuff kind of boils down to people need to understand that, you know, gaming is changing. Slowly but surely it's changing. More women are getting into the industry. But here's the thing, women were always in the industry. It's just they're becoming more prominent, they're getting more control over what's going on. It's getting bigger and better and more badass. And that's a good thing, because, you know, the video game industry is... It's an industry where basically the limitations of physical strength are surpassed through gaming. You can make a game where a kid in a wheelchair could be the protagonist and just dominate. You could make a game where a kid in a sick bed who has cancer could be the protagonist and save the world. And yet we aren't getting these games. We're getting games with the same dude bro, space marine, guy in a power suit, shooting things in the face. It gets old. So I'll go into some examples as to how this problem of expanding gaming so that it is more representative of the people in the world can change after the cut. So, I outlined the problem and a few examples of the problem. Now I'm going to talk about some solutions. I have 3 of them. The first one is kind of already being alleviated. More women in more positions in the video game industry. We're seeing more women getting hired. We're seeing more women being put in positions where they can present their ideas and implement them. That's a good thing. You know, Ubisoft has a lot of female designers, developers. I know Nintendo, like, one of their biggest franchises, the director of the team over, like, the director, not the producer, but the director over that is, a female. It's a woman. I mean, really, one of the most big money-making things that they have, woman is in charge of that. I know that, like I said earlier, the woman who made Phantasy Star and then went on to make Skies of Arcadia Legends, woman. Really, women have always been here, but we're starting to see them more in positions where they can implement their ideas. So they're not just the graphic designers. They're also making the games, designing the games, developing the games, in some cases promoting the games. This is a good thing. But we also need other minorities, people of color, because despite what the video game universe might tell you, the vast majority of this world is made up of people of color. Okay? Give you an example. The United States of America, is only 5% of the total population. The rest of the population of the world is in China, India, Africa. Followed closely by South and Central America. That's where the vast majority of the world's population is situated. Okay? And yet, if you listen to the video game logic, the only person who can save you when an alien invasion happens is some white guy with a 5 o'clock shadow who's bald-headed and whose face looks like he's seen some shit. And I mean, that's a bad message to send, because you have young kids playing these games, and like their image of who can be a hero is being formed by these games, and that's not good. Because I mean, I'm 29 years old. I grew up playing games where my heroes were plumbers, hedgehogs, cops who took to the streets and beat the shit out of criminals, a white guy, a black guy, and a chick. A mayor, a 40-something-year-old mayor who rips his shirt and just has the suspenders holding up his pants and beats the shit out of people. You know, I mean, these were the heroes I grew up with. A earthworm in a power suit shooting the shit out of stuff. An ugly cat who's in some of the worst games ever. Bubsy, that's Bubsy. A gecko who's actually a spy. I mean, these games had protagonists who were, you know, they were anthropomorphized in some cases, animals, and or just something totally outrageous. I mean, we had a game when I was a kid called Booger Man, where the main character was a rich guy who had no powers, but he used the powers of disgustingness, farting at people, picking his nose and shooting boogers at them, and barfing on people to save the world. And we've gone from that, which some people would say the Booger Man was the far end of the spectrum of tastelessness, but still, it was a mighty large spectrum, to, I mean, a lot of these protagonists in some of the biggest games on the market seem the same to me. On paper, it's like, well, it's a guy in combat armor with a shotgun or an assault rifle running around shooting things in the face. Okay, what about the next game? It's a guy in assault armor running around shooting people in the face. Okay, what about the third game? It's a guy in assault armor in armor wearing with an assault rifle shooting things in the face. I mean, it becomes very repetitive, and we need to alleviate that. We need to have more protagonists who are people of color, women. We need to go back to maybe having anthropomorphized characters. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, I play realistic games. No, you don't. No, you don't. I don't know if you know anyone who's actually in the military, but go and ask them what would happen if a dude went like in Call of Duty style and just, you know, jumped out of a foxhole and was like, I'm just gonna shoot everyone in the face. He'd be dead in the first 5-10 minutes. Okay? Now, occasionally you'll hear Battlefield stories like Audie Murphy or Ronald Rusty Johnson, who, like, in military history, who, like, rushed a Nazi machine gunner nest and, threw a grenade down a tank hatch, down a Panzer tank hatch and blew those fuckers up, and then rushed a machine gun nest, killed some Nazis, turned their own gun against them, and shot the shit out of them. But that is the exception to the rule. in real life. That is not the norm, okay? And people need to realize that. We need to, I mean, because video games are kind of, I mean, they're a form of media. Much like books or comics, they are there to expand your imagination. And kids who are playing these games need to imagine that they can aspire to these things. Or at least have the idea that, you know, my skin color, my gender, my age is not going to preclude me from great things. The idea that it's not going to preclude them from great things, because video games aren't real. They're a toy. They're an extension of imagination. But before you do something, you have to imagine it. You see, and there's where the thing that's where the issue is. So we went over two of the things. The third one is even simpler. The first one was more women in gaming, and minorities in gaming. The second one was more women and minorities as protagonists in gaming. And the third one is also equally just as important. We need more women in the antagonistic, women and other minorities in the antagonistic. Just as good as we see characters who are the bad guys, we need to see characters that are the good guys. We need to see bad guy characters. We need to see that no one is safe from being, you know, a bad guy can be anyone. So you need to be vigilant. You know, we need to be even-handed in that regard. And that's the way I see this thing being fixed, and or at least treating the problem, because you can't, with things like this, you know, fixing social mores and perception. It's in industry type things. You can treat the issue, but solving it is far more difficult. So the recap and the conclusion after the cut. Alright, it's time to get to the recap and the conclusion. So basically, to simplify what I just said, because I tended to ramble a little bit towards the middle of it. Sorry, but this is an issue that, like, you really have to parse out some parts of it. The first part is that we need more minorities in the creation phase and production phase of this product, just like any other industry. More women developing the games, more women producing and directing the games. We need that. They've always been here. Same thing with minorities. They've always been here, but we need more of it, okay? And how to solve that, I mean, hell, you know, more tech incentives in minority-rich areas, you know, in high school to get kids interested in that, you know, so they can, you know, go to places where they learn development and coding. That would be cool. We need to see more. Secondly, we need to see more and more varied types of protagonists and antagonists, which is 2 and 3 respectively, but I'm going to combine them. Basically, have development competitions. Have development competitions where there are some restrictions, like you can't have a white male protagonist, dude bro. You can't have a dude bro, but anything else, the sky's the limit. And, you know, because, believe it or not, limitations breed creativity. Not vice versa. Freedom does not breed creativity. People think it does, but it doesn't. When you have limitations beyond on you, you are far more creative than when the sky's the limit, because limitations force you to innovate. Okay? They force you to be creative, whereas when you have all this freedom, you have no reason to do anything new. Which seems counterintuitive, but it actually makes sense in real-world examples. So, that's the recap. That's how I think you could solve that issue, which leads to the conclusion. In conclusion, the people who have, you know, started petitions and arguments and Twitter fights, I mean, they've co-opted this on both sides for their own agenda. Really, these things would make gaming good again. You know, we we need variety. We need new things. We need new ideas. We need new antagonists. We need new protagonists. We need to see people from different backgrounds and having different viewpoints making games. We need these things. And without them, we're just in a very stagnant, one dimension, one rule, one thing going universe. And that's not a universe that you want to be in. That's not a universe that we want to be in. That's not a universe that anyone wants to be in. So with that being said, what else do I have to say? That's it. Oh, upcoming events after the cut. Alright, it's time for upcoming events. This will be quick. Basically, my classes are over for now. I'm taking summer classes though, so the next semester doesn't begin until after the 4th. So I have about a week and a half, 2 weeks of time to basically up my content ratio. So I have 2 installments of a new series I'm working on coming out called Tavern Tales, where I just give tips and tricks about how to play tabletop games well, for lack of a better term. Tabletop games well. So, that being said, I'm just going to be giving you tips, hints, tips, maybe a few anecdotes and stories. I would like you guys to tell me what you think in the comments section. If you don't like it, I'm still going to do it. It just won't be as high profile, and I'll just do it maybe once a month. If you do like it, I'll try to do it once every 2 weeks, so 2 times a month. The only reason I'm dropping 2 this week is because I basically spent the last 3 days playing nothing but tabletop RPGs, Shadowrun, our own heavily modified D&D, and some old school 2.5, or aka AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So, yeah. So basically, I've been on a RPG, tabletop RPG kick for a little bit. So, I mean, I have the materials fresh in my mind. I have my adventures notebook right here next to me that I use to keep up with events and stuff in the game. So, plus all of my information in my digital adventures tool notebook, which also has my World Bible on it on a hard drive, which I've also backed up to the cloud. It's like 10.2 gigs of info, and I'm gonna have to ameliorate it and abridge it one day, but not today. I don't have time for it. So look forward to that. Also next week, Saturday, 1:30ish, I'll be doing a podcast with, hopefully I'll be able to get John Lucas again, where we'll be talking about the old school gaming, the first video game crash with Atari and all those guys, and we'll talk about what caused that crash, what precipitated it, and how there's a parallel going on between then and now. So look forward to that. It's going to be 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, so look forward to that. With that, I bid you guys adieu. That's upcoming events, what's coming out this week, and keep up the good work.